loan and they have to go to a financial management class.
That's right.
So as long as they talking about Jesus gonna come get you, give your life to Jesus, talking about prosperity, you're not dealing with economics, you're not dealing with the history, you're not talking about Moors and how we ruled North America and the high sciences come from us and the architectural design, like you said, of Washington, New York, and I even found out this is what white people do as well, and now the Asians do. They don't respect us because they over there fucking Africa with a big ungreased horse dick like everybody else. They taking the gold, they taking the oil, but whenever they want to hide our history from us and they want to disrespect our ancestors, first of all, they dig them up because, right here in Atlanta, they got King Tut. So they can't, and that's what I wanted to say, too, because we had dealt with this on another show, how white people, they were taking, and y'all can read this stuff, you don't believe me, going to the Europeans and they're coming from England, going over there, not only were they stealing the bodies, stealing the scrolls, burned the Library of Alexandria down, stole all the knowledge out of Alexandria that we had of all galaxies and universes, everything you wanted in the world we had in the Library of Alexandria. They were digging up the mummies, making mummy tea out of them, grinding up them mummies. They were actually cannibalizing our ancestors that had been going through ceremonial rituals, the kings and queens, pharaohs, put in their temples, put in their tombs and their sarcophaguses. They breaking them up. They taking their bones. They eating the bones off of them. They taking the tissue off of them. And they said that these mummy powder, they were grinding our ancestors up into powder, had medicinal healing properties for their body. So white folks was actually eating our folks long ago. They had been cannibalized on our folks because they realized the power in our DNA. So they were doing this, and now they're carting around. They still got our mummies in their museums, and they were even saying that the mummies were white mummies. Now, we know later on, before as they got towards destroying Egypt, white folks came in there and started infiltrating and sleeping with and actually conquering and taking the throne. So, yeah, they sat on the throne because they took it, not because they are the indigenous people and they actually created the Comedian civilization that they call Egypt, but because they stole it. So that's how they put themselves in our bloodline. And when you look at the Queen of England and you see the throne she sit on, you see the steps she walk up on, that's a pyramid she walk up on. That's a whole ritual that she do paying homage to our ancestors and the lineage that they stole. So now you see them going around, carting around our ancestors' bodies after they done ate off them and did all kind of rituals on them and did all kind of satanic rituals and to draw down power, taking their skulls out of them that we don't even know about because they still tell us a little bit about the ancestors and the tombs they done dug in and the power and the ritual rites. We still don't know all of that. So we have to tap into that and download it from our DNA because that's how we know that we don't have it because we too fucked up. If we really had that knowledge that they have, they wouldn't have flipped it upside down on us, and we would see a difference in the way we communicate, the way we have sex with each other, the type of children we give birth to, and the state of our condition is a reflection of the state of our mind. So we know we don't have it all yet. We know we're not even trying to tap into it until now. Many of us are feeling compelled because our ancestors are making us tap into it. But the point I'm making is, Brother Bay, is that if these mummies were white mummies and King Tut was a white boy, I believe that they would not be carting his body around to put like a damn circus on spectacle. You ain't never seen them talking about we finna damn dig up George Washington and damn Abraham Lincoln and Roosevelt. We finna cart them around on tour. You ain't never seen that shit happen. And you're not going to see it happen. Because they respect what they enshrine. But then when it comes to us, it's like I found out over there off of near the West End, that big old cemetery that I thought was a white cemetery. They got black people buried in there. And then a lot of these places where they done built these subdivisions and houses, they done took our Moorish and our indigenous ancestors, and they done bulldozed down any remnants that there were mounds there, how we buried our people in mounds and did a whole ritual around death. It was a very powerful thing when one of our ancestors actually left the body. We didn't just throw them in a square. And I also believe, too, that's a Masonic square when they cut that square to put your casket down in that square, and it's also a binding in that square. I don't believe all of us supposed to be buried, dropped down 6 feet under in no square. So they do a ritual doing that, too, when they bulldoze and they put houses and shopping malls over our ancestors. But I know it don't stop nothing. Because those ancestors' core energy, even here in Atlanta, Georgia, where all those mounds are that we just now finding out are here, our ancestors are here. That's why a lot of white folks go in these houses. A lot of psychics like to live in them old houses over there in the West End because they know that it's old Moors that are in them houses, moving through the walls and moving through that ground. You can bulldoze and dig up stuff all you want to, but you can never destroy the vibration of our people that walked this earth here and that were put in the ground here in Georgia. And this stuff is starting to come back up. They're speaking to us.
You know that's the same situation happened with what they call the African burial ground in New York City, down by Wall Street. And I actually took a clip. I was a director of a housing development or a community center I was in there totally about 10 years. And I remember we had to go downtown in Manhattan and take a class on how we had built the first restaurants, farmlands, tool making, horse riding, all up and down Manhattan. Now, I don't know about what that story about they paid 25 cents or whatever the case was. That wasn't part of the script. We did all of that. They'll even tell you that George Washington got his first meal at a sister's restaurant. That we did all of that, and they found these burial grounds. They were digging up, like you said, just like they do here, digging up in the ground and realized there was all these bones of original people that was in the ground, and then after they made, they made like a little monument or whatever like that. But the real science was, well, okay, what were we doing? In J.A. Rogers' book, it shows a picture of the first pilgrim, who Brooklyn was a brother. And that's why I like to, let's go into physics and biology. Really the real science is, and I know I read in some book, it was like saying they called the Ethiopians dark-skinned Caucasians. I'm like, okay, y'all got to get it. Because really the science is this, Caucasians are albino Negroes. I mean, that's and what it is. When we had them up in Europe and we began to mix with them, of course, this is all in, and you can look this up in Mendel's law, that he talks about it in the turn of the century. He was doing with plants, and then he started doing with genetics. And he said that you have different variations of them. If I say a Caucasian with red hair and green eyes, everybody knows that's Irish. If I say blonde hair, everybody knows that's, well, it's not really German, but that's at least Nordic. If you say black, hazel eyes and black hair, they're closer to the Mediterranean and closer to us with curly hair.
Yep.
That's either, or what we may call Jews or what have you. Well, that's really religious, a thing. So, what I'm saying, they have different flavors within what they call albinoism, and it's so they had to live up in the north because they couldn't even live near the equator because it just wasn't, meant for them to live. And I've always had people ask, and children ask, well, if we were so powerful a nation, how could we, so like they say, the oldest profession, and this was something they taught us, the oldest profession is prostitution. I said, not for sisters is not. For sisters is, she's the goddess of the universe. The queen hers is, nursing, teaching, child rearing, and we're still doing that, even rearing their children. You know what I mean? So prostitution was a way that and that's, I believe, why we fell. I think the brothers, the Moors, kind of abused it, and we had their women, and then women started learning from us. Being we were traveling with, it's all this. You can look in J.A. Rogers' book. It's called Africa's Gift to America. They showed a picture of, the light-skinned Caucasian woman, and what happens, we began to teach them the high sciences, the science of the stars, the science of biology, the science of chemistry. And after a while, their men were kind of course, obviously, their men were getting, upset, and that's when the whole, they began to try to rebel. And then, I guess, like they say with drugs, if you're selling cocaine, you can't use the cocaine. So we began to sleep, I guess, with our prostitutes and began to have children. We started teaching our children, and then little by little, they started, teaching their children, their sons, the sciences, and we began to initiate them in what we call masonry. We started teaching them how to use a hammer, how to build. That's why, a long time ago when you were a little child, little boys got little toy cars and little, car engines and models or little tool sets. Girls got Susie Homemaker, and little dolls and stuff like that, and how you're supposed to, how man, gets his profession and learns, and how woman, gets her profession and learns. So that's how they basically was able to mend themselves back in among us, through their women. And actually, it happened in reverse, too. It was actually a Caucasian woman who started teaching young boys how to read and to write when the slave master was running around screwing basically our sisters.
Mm-hmm.